WandaVision is nearing its conclusion, and with only 3 episodes left to go, we've still got way more questions than we do answers. Now, like most of you, I'm still stuck at home, so I'm obsessing over this show pretty hard. So I have sat and done some investigating, and I have tried to work out from clips and trailers that we've seen how the rest of the WandaVision timeline is going to play out and where the whole WandaVision timeline fits in to the MCU as a whole. In this video, I'm going to be highlighting 3 very short clips from trailers, official trailers, not these bullshit fan-made, clickbait, misleading screen culture trailers that they throw out every couple of days. Don't waste your time on them, seriously, they are just explicitly made to be misleading and just get views to give them money. Don't do it, don't buy into that stuff. Anyway, these clips don't look like they come from previous episodes and they've just not made the final cut. These clips look like they've come from future episodes and may very well shape how the rest of the show plays out. WandaVision's been an interesting show because it's definitely not telling us a lot of information. I mean, we're 6 episodes in, we still don't know who the baddie is, we still don't really know what's going on, and we definitely don't know how we've arrived where we have. So that's what I'm going to try and do, try and work out where what we don't know lies, if that makes any sense whatsoever. You know, we've got a couple of clips here and there. We know stuff has happened before WandaVision officially started. I'm going to try and work out what that was, and stuff definitely seems to play out after it from casting rumours in future movies. So that's what this video is all about. That's what we're going to try and do. Lego! In Infinity War, Vision dies at the hands of Wanda as she's forced to remove the Mind Stone from him and destroy it. Seconds later, Thanos undoes this and removes the Mind Stone himself to put it into the gauntlet. Wanda gets dusted as part of the snap, and we don't see her again in the MCU for 5 years in that timeline, because it's 2023 when she comes back, and she's tearing Thanos apart piece by piece. Now for the MCU, this was 5 years. For in the real world, between the movies, that was 1 year for us. For Wanda, this was about 5 minutes. After the battle for Earth at the Avengers compound, Tony Stark's funeral has to take place. Presumably this is a couple of days after that, but the last thing we see of Wanda is her having a conversation with Hawkeye about their deceased loved ones. And in this scene, she doesn't quite look ready to take a whole town hostage and put them into a sitcom-based reality. Yet. Now here's where one of those clips that I was talking about earlier comes in handy. In the second full official trailer for WandaVision, we see this shot. Now we've already seen this in the show, but from a different angle. We've seen the security camera footage of this taking place, Wanda breaking into Sword HQ and stealing Vision's dissected corpse. Now I don't think we've seen all there is to see in this scene. I think we're going to get a flashback sequence at some point in WandaVision, quite possibly this episode coming. And I think that's going to help fill out this whole moment and give us a bigger idea of what the full picture is going on here. But this in itself raises yet more questions for WandaVision to answer. What happened in those 2 weeks? How did Wanda go from seemingly sort of, you know, okay-ish for given everything that's happened to her at the end of Endgame to 2 weeks later breaking into Sword HQ, stealing her ex-boyfriend, dead ex-boyfriend's corpse and taking an entire town hostage? I'm thinking some big bad out there caught whiff of Wanda's immense grief and sadness, realised her power potential, knows about her from her time with the Avengers, and thought, I might be able to cause some havoc with this. Obviously we don't know yet, we still don't know who the baddie is, so we still don't know if this is even possible, but that could be one potential avenue that this story goes. Now the second and third clips I want to show you are from totally different trailers, but I think in the show they are going to flow almost seamlessly into one another, so I'll show you them together.
Vision residents.
Wanda.
So in this first shot, it looks like Wanda is just pulling the whole 1950s sitcom that we saw from the first episode of WandaVision back together, Vision and all. If you look again though, that TV behind her, that's actually playing WandaVision's first episode on it. So I'm thinking this happens in a future episode, right? We've already seen that Wanda is not opposed to just restarting a scene from the top if she doesn't like the way that it's going. So I'm thinking something potentially happens in WandaVision to push Wanda past the furthest point she's happy with, and she just restarts the whole thing from scratch. Straight back to the 1950s, we're going to just go from the top with the whole show. And the second shot is in the 1950s reality, except we don't see this in the first episode, so I'm thinking this might also happen in a future episode. Now watch Vision again though, because it doesn't seem like he recognises Wanda immediately. It's just a tiny little facial thing, but it looks like he's taking a wee second to sort of recognise her before he gives us the
Wanda.
So I'm thinking, here is what I'm thinking for the next couple of episodes of WandaVision, at least the next episode. So we know from the trailers that we are definitely getting a modern day sitcom in WandaVision as well, and it looks like it's based on Modern Family. Now also in the trailers, we don't see Vision at all in any of the Modern Family styled clips. We see Wanda, we see Agnes, but that's it. My thinking is this. We see Vision getting reabsorbed by the Hex at the end of episode 6. It looks like he's put back together after being essentially torn apart as he tried to escape. I'm thinking something happens that he needs to get written off, because he's damaged and he needs to heal up following his ordeal outside the Hex. I'm thinking something might happen, we've got Monica trying to get back in using this Hex buggy that we've seen in the trailers. Hayward's definitely not done. We saw him leaving, but he's coming back and I don't think he's going to be happy about what's happened. I'm thinking one of these interferences is what sends Wanda over the edge. She restarts the whole thing from scratch and resets Vision back to factory settings and gives it all a second try. So I do have another slightly more fun way that these two last clips could play out, and it's slightly more cynical thinking, but if they wanted to stretch out this show and really just get their bang for their buck and get a second season, maybe even a third season out of it, we've had no confirmation that WandaVision's getting a second series, right? I don't think it needs one, to be honest. This show is really cool as a concept. I think it's a really good idea and they've handled it masterfully, but the story itself doesn't really need to go past this show. I don't think. We already know she's appearing in Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness, so this story is going to continue on. I don't think WandaVision needs a second season, basically is what I'm saying. But if they decide to do it, this could be how they do it. Something happens, the whole series, the big climax of the series is just too much for Wanda to bear, so she reboots the whole thing from scratch. Reboots Vision, reboots the whole sitcom, and maybe expands the Hex even further so that nobody can come in and interfere this time. And that's the last thing we see. We'll see them throwing it all together, Vision saying his bit, cue the credits, and that's us until season 2. It would be mental, it would be insane, I don't think it's necessary, but goodness me, what a way to do it would be. So let's just lay this timeline out so that you can see exactly what I'm getting at here and how I think the show is going to fit into the MCU as a whole once it's all finished. We have the events of Infinity War and Endgame, which again for Wanda is about 20 minutes. After Tony Stark's funeral, something happens in that 2-week time span, which is one of the things we're going to see in this flashback sequence I mentioned earlier. Then we have the sword break-in and Vision acquisition. 9 days go by and we're not really sure what happens in these 9 days. I'm thinking that might be when Wanda sets up the Hex, but we'll need to wait and see. And then it's WandaVision as we're seeing it, and that's where we are now. We'll have the final 3 episodes in the coming weeks. After WandaVision, we have Spider-Man Far From Home, which happens 6 months later in the MCU timeline. But what about in between that? In Spider-Man Far From Home, Doctor Strange is famously...
Doctor Strange.
Unavailable.
Why? I'm thinking it's the Multiverse of Madness, which we know for a fact Elizabeth Olsen is going to be in as Wanda. Doctor Strange is one of the big names rumoured to appear in the series at some point, and with Wanda appearing in his sequel, it's looking pretty likely. So how does this play out? Does Wanda become full-blown villain and Doctor Strange has to traverse the Multiverse of Madness to try and help her or stop her? Or does she realise the error of her ways? Does Strange help her realise that? And she then becomes his apprentice, and that's her role in Multiverse of Madness. She learns to control and use her powers for good. And this would also mean that Spider-Man Far From Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is happening around the same time as each other in the MCU as well. So there you have it. That's what I think might be the complete WandaVision timeline and how it'll fit into the MCU as a whole. What do you think? Do you think this is nonsense? Do you think I've been spending too much time on my own and need to go for more socially distant walks? Do you agree? Do you have got another idea? Leave a comment and let me know. Worst case scenario, I'm completely wrong and I've wasted a whole day, but it's been fun for me. Leave a comment, let me know, and I'll see you next time.